Just a reminder to everyone, please be sure to turn on your microphones prior to speaking to allow the audience and home viewers to be able to hear your questions and discussion. So I am going to call this meeting of the Historic Preservation Commission to order at 7 p.m. Are you able to take roll for us? Thanks.
Mr. Hayes,
Here.
Miss Holliday,
Here.
Miss O'Donnell, Mr. Roberts,
Here.
Mr. Shepherd,
Here.
Miss Urban,
Here.
Mr. Weiss,
Here.
Thank you. All right, for approval of the minutes, it looks like we have 3 separate minutes to approve. June 4th, 2025, a regular meeting. August 6th of 2025, also a regular meeting, and December 3rd, 2025, regular meeting. Does anyone have, well, I should ask first, is there a motion to approve?
I move, so move.
Okay.
I'll second.
Okay. And then, do any members of the commission have corrections?
I do.
Okay,
Did somebody else say something?
go ahead,
Here,
Chair.
you're first. You called it first.
All right, June 4th. I printed these out. I don't know if you're going to do the typing or who's going to redo these, but my name is spelled 3 different ways, and only one of them is right. And I've circled the wrong ones, and that's just typographical stuff. And there's a place on page 3 of the June 4th minutes where under J, I guess it's the 3rd paragraph, Marcus is referred to as Mr. Marcus, and I think we ought to call him Mr. Ricci probably. And I circled that. And then, this is something I've got a question here. So on that page 3 under J, the last paragraph of J, it says, Mr. Roberts mentioned that the Baptist Church is still in status as last meeting. What Baptist church are we talking about, or should we identify that?
You can, and that was the Canaan Baptist on Main
Canaan
Street.
Baptist Church.
Yeah.
So maybe we'll put Canaan in front of that.
Thoughtful.
I was trying to think there's the one there on is that Illinois or California? Illinois, that big red brick one.
Yeah.
I think that used to be a Baptist church. Anyway, we'll put
No,
Canaan
it's
in
Canaan
there.
Baptist. We had a landmark nomination for that
Yeah,
earlier.
yeah, so just identify it there. And then, who said this? Well, it might have been Marcus talking. Yeah, toward the end, but the last line on page 3, it said, requested review comments from John Wesley. And I thought, who's John Wesley other than a church leader from way back when? And it might be nice for somebody looking at this in the future to know who John Wesley was or what his role is, or does anybody here have any recollection of who that person is that was going to create a stronger application?
I think, if I remember correctly, he's somebody organizationally who's not here, but at the vetting agency. Am I right for that? I could
For
look at
the-
notes, but I believe that he was somebody for the CLG grant when we were being
Okay.
encouraged to pursue these.
All right.
There was somebody who was willing to give feedback and to vet this. But anyhow,
Maybe
it's a good point.
If that's who it is, maybe we could just add from CLG in there, or from the not CLG, but from the,
Will do. I think I know where the error was. I believe this is John Presley of SHPO. Yes.
oh,
Yes,
Shippo.
John Presley is the CLG.
Presley,
yes.
not Wesley? All right. All right. And then on page 4, I guess we call it the third line or paragraph, and it says, Mr. Ricci then states that Mr. Roberts spoke with Urbana Free Library and Joseph Royer. And I know you're talented, but you can't. Did you have a seance? What do you think that was?
It was about the Joseph Royer project.
Okay, so it should say, oops, so it should say about,
Well, it does say about a little bit farther down,
about Joseph Royer.
but I also talked to the Royer, Hotel Royer. So I don't know if that's really what,
Okay,
I talked to the two individual entities. Royer Hotel Royer.
Right, it was in reference to a Royer exhibit
Yes,
at
that's
either the
correct.
Hotel Royal or the Urbana Library,
All right,
Urbana Free
so
Library.
It was
exhibit.
proposed, it didn't get passed, but it was an idea. You got it.
all right. And then, under Preservation Month activity, second paragraph, I'd put Ms. in front of holiday there. It just said holiday noted. That was a little, and some more of my name spelled wrong, and I have nothing else to talk about on June 4th.
And I just had I had a question, actually. I'm not sure what the correct form is. The two of the minutes, at least, identify me as Chair Hayes, because I did lead that session, because Chair Urban was not here, but I'm Vice Chair Hayes. And I was just wondering if it should say, for posterity, Vice Chair Hayes read it, because in your absence, my title doesn't change. So I wasn't sure if, like, you're chair of the session, because I'm also vice chair for the commission, if that makes sense. So I just didn't know the protocol on that, but maybe you,
I think that was just an error. It would be Mr. Hayes or your full title.
vice chair, okay,
Yeah,
yeah,
so
great,
vice
okay,
chair
thank
then,
you,
yeah.
All right, that was it for me.
I had just a couple of clarifications on page 4 of the minutes under Preservation Month activities. In the first sentence, where Mr. Ricci opened the agenda topic stating the mid-century modern housing, it should be tour on May 31st and exhibition at the Krannert Art Museum through July 12th. Just to differentiate between the two and get those dates cleared up for the record. And then in the second paragraph of that section, the first sentence, just a little bit of clarification that I noted the opportunity to engage with audience and get them curious about preservation, not about the commissioners.
What about us? All right.
And saying that it was a very large crowd and they were eager to know how to engage, not so much about us personally.
Would you please repeat your comment on the first paragraph of that?
Yeah, the first paragraph, there were actually two things referred to. There was a mid-century modern open house tour on May 31st. And there is a mid-century modern architecture exhibition that was at the Krannert Art Museum through July 12th. And that's it for me.
Any other corrections? Okay. All members in favor of the corrections that have been stated, please say yes.
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 All members opposed, please say no. All right, the minutes are approved as corrected. Do we have written communications?
I got other,
Oh,
oh.
My
I thought we were going
apologies.
One by one,
no,
okay.
we certainly are going one by one. Okay, my apologies on that. Sorry, not, August 6th, which, August 8th, I believe, actually.
Well, okay. So the agenda's wrong. The agenda's wrong where it says August 6th,
Let me double check.
Double check, yeah.
or the minutes wrong where they say that.
It's August 6th, so actually the meeting minutes are incorrect. It needs to say August 6th.
Okay. And on that one, I've just got my name spelled one time wrong, but I've got that circled and somebody can correct that. That's it for that one.
Okay, are there other corrections or amendments? For August 6th? No? Okay. Okay. All members in favor of the corrections as stated, please say yes. Yes.
Yes.
All members opposed, please say no. Okay, those minutes are approved as corrected. And then our final minutes that we have with us today, December 3rd.
I have comments.
Okay, go ahead.
Well, my name's all over the place again, so I've got those circled and that can be corrected. On page 3, down at the bottom, under the monitoring, under J, monitoring, I gave some updates, and I referred, maybe I did, to the Lincoln House. Well, the house where Lincoln slept, we're officially, that's designated as the Boyden House, B-O-Y-D-E-N, at 404 West Illinois, and I think we should call it that instead of me just calling it the Lincoln House. And so that was in that first one, and then in the fourth one, instead of just say Weber Street, I think we ought to say 108 North Weber Street. So add that 108 North. Owner occupant given contact information. I gave her information about contractors. And then cross out who worked with toy houses. I think, I mean, we're maybe that's the toy house, but that's, anyway, gave information for contractors, period. And Mr. Shepherd hoped to see improvements by next year, I think, instead of probably next year. And then on the top of the next page, Mr. Roberts needs an S on the end of his name, the first line there, and I circled that too, and that's all I had about that one.
Thank you for saving my honor.
Are there any other corrections for December? All members in favor of approving, say yes. Oh, sorry.
Sorry, I did have one.
Go ahead.
Which was on page 2 of the minutes. Towards the bottom, it mentions a student from U of I named Sophia. Her last name is Warner. Warner.
Would you spell that, please?
Warner. And then the last sentence on that page, I wasn't sure what this actually referred to, where commissioners shared dismay at demolitions, which were former nominations that failed, stressing the care and diligence and how these applications are presented for vote. I didn't recall this, but, and I wasn't sure what it would.
I didn't know what it's talking about.
Yeah, I wasn't sure what it would be in reference to. I think we did discuss dismay at the demolition of the church that was happening at the moment that we were deciding this.
Oh, well, maybe we mentioned that,
I definitely brought that up.
did you?
Yeah, that's,
But I
Okay.
feel like it reads a little bit differently to note that there was a demolition happening than there were,
Or nominations that failed.
yeah. So I wasn't sure how to reword, maybe just strike it rather than reword it.
I'd be fine with that.
yeah, in spirit, it's correct, because there was this sense that, had it been handled differently, the historic preservation considerations might have been more present earlier on, something to that effect. Other people had that story. I just was responding to the fact that what I viewed to be a very interesting and worthwhile building was demolished, full stop. And yeah, it wasn't in our community. So we might say, it was something to which people responded, so I don't know about striking it completely. It was
Okay.
part of our discussion. But even if we, said in neighboring Champaign or something like that, because
Perhaps say, commissioners shared dismay at the current demolition of the University Place Christian Church in Champaign.
that would be perfect.
So I'll say that commissioners shared dismay at the current demolition of the University Place Christian Church in Champaign, stressing the need to nominate historic properties.
And we might even change that to recent demolition, because it had just happened,
happened.
like about a week
Yep.
before, and it was driving by the demolition that was so affecting. But, yeah,
And
great, thank you.
and one of the board members there explained to me, I think the timing on when the people that were interested in nominating it, it was basically too late. I mean, there was already a demolition permit issued. I think timing was the issue instead of anti-preservation sentiments. But anyway, it was a sad situation all around.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead.
In relation to that information, as a homeowner, I received a notice for the demolition of two houses on East Elm Street in my neighborhood. They're a block from my house, as a courtesy from the city. And so it's important for the community to realize that there is a request for demolition. And in the East Urbana neighborhood, we have an ordinance which creates demolition delay, which allows any, this might be actually citywide. I can't remember how that got passed, but it applies certainly to East Urbana, and I think it's West Urbana. And if the area is in, if I get this right, a historic district, or it's a historic building, or potentially one, there is a demolition delay of 45 days, allowing the possible nomination for historic landmark to be considered by the city council. And when we hear about a demolition, it would be always wise to see if the demolition delay ordinance applies to that building.
Thank you, Dennis, for that information. Hopefully that can be included, even though we're in the minutes part of this. Hopefully we can include that in our minutes for this month. Any other corrections on December? Okay. So all members in favor of approving these minutes, say yes.
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
All members opposed, please say no. Okay, December minutes are approved as corrected. And now going back, are there written communications?
I believe Mr. Shepherd had received one.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
I got an email last week, and March 28th, from a woman in my neighborhood who was, it just kind of popped into her mind as, well, she also mentioned the University Place Christian Church demolition. That was on her mind. And she was driving by Uni High in Urbana, and it occurred to her what a special building that is, and that's history, Nobel Prize winners, all sorts of things. And she was kind of asking me, what would it take to have that be an Urbana landmark? And so I wrote back to her and I explained that it's a little different situation than if it were just someone's home, but since it is state property. But anyway, and you also talked to her maybe the same day I replied to her.
Yes.
It's a coincidence,
I
perhaps.
would have to check my call logs to whether it was Friday or Monday or what day it was. But she did also call me asking for the ordinance and
Yeah.
just what the process would be. I told her I would need a little bit to get a grip on what the legal implications would be of like, because it's not, she doesn't own it, and because it's, you know, on the university property, we'd need to do some research there. But I did make her aware that even if the ordinance still applied, that it would be difficult, since given that it would not be an owner-initiated landmarking.
Yeah. And I also mentioned to her National Register status, and there's the Warm Air Research House at 1108 West Stoughton Street in Urbana, which is on the National Register, which is university property. And a friend of mine goaded the university and worked with them for a long time. And anyway, they supported for that, and it is a National Register. So, I mean, that might be another type of a potential designation for Uni High or any other building. And I ought to know, but I don't, whether there are other National Register buildings on campus.
Mumford House, 1989, went onto the register.
Okay, all right. Oh, I thought about that, but I didn't remember that. Okay. So, anyway, and I'll give this to Kate, and that this can go in the records, I guess, since it's
That'd be great.
all about the same subject.
Thank you.
Thank you, Trent. Any other written communication? Okay. So it's time for audience participation. Does anyone in the audience want to address the Historic Preservation Commission on any topic? No? Okay. All right, that's okay. We do not have any continued public hearings. We do have old business. Do one of you want to go over that with us?
Okay, so this is a continuation of the Florida Avenue Section 106 that was brought to you last meeting. I know that was a really quick turnaround, so thank you all for your efforts. I did send a packet to Emily Land at IDOT on March 16th. The packet has a cover letter, but it was simply a transmittance of all of your comments, so staff made no comment or distributed their own opinion. It was simply, here is what we have attached, here is what had happened at the commission. For your perusal, please see the attachments. And those are attached to your packet as well, so you can see the email that was sent and then the packet that was put together from Ms. Land. I did not receive a response from her, though she did let us know that she has many cases that she is working on currently and is a bit overloaded. So I followed up with her today just to confirm that she had received it. I will let you know if I hear back. Are there any questions or comments?
No. Okay. And when we do hear back from her, we'll have it on the agenda again to go over as old business, or?
I would believe so, yeah. We'll just continually update you as it progresses through the process.
Okay, great. Thank you. Go ahead.
Well, I wasn't here last time, and as far as I could tell, I can't watch yet the meeting from a month ago. It's not available.
It should be available. I'm happy to
But it
send
wasn't
you the
yesterday.
link.
but-
Yeah, we can help you find that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I found the one from the February meeting, but I couldn't, anyway. I should just watch that instead of asking questions about a subject I don't really know much about, I think.
You're welcome to ask questions,
Well,
and then also the fellow
Is the idea,
commissioners.
is widening the street,
Oh,
is that happening or just that path? Is it gonna be
There is, I don't want to speak to, I'm not an engineer. There is I can forward you, engineering city engineering staff put together a website that goes over the project, and it kind of
Well,
breaks down like.
there's a place in the minutes where it referred to that, and there was something blue, and I clicked on it 3 times.
It
and
didn't
that
go,
wouldn't open,
okay. I
so,
can email you directly
yeah,
and make sure that that
would be-
link was functional.
That might illuminate things
Okay.
for me, yeah. If you could send me that,
Mhm.
then I won't have to ask 1,000
It was,
questions.
to my recollection, it was improvements that had to do with traffic flow, and that included adding like traffic lights.
And also, I think possibly some room for a bus stop. And then also improvements to the sidewalk so that they're accessible.
Okay,
So I can say, what was provided at the meeting was highly unspecific, and so there was follow-up afterwards that sent us some additional information. And it's still a little unspecific, but walking the street with what was provided in hand, there's certainly areas where there are bus pullouts that would widen the street or paved area. And there, looking at the specificity, there was replacement of streetlights, replacement of sidewalks, like so quite a lot of construction. And so I do think like the level of specificity in what was provided was not high. It was a kind of a preliminary plan more so than a specific implementation.
And then one other quick note there, for much of the stretch, the impact would be taken by the university property to the south, because there's really no room to expand to the north. But then when you get into the easternmost section, we had some questions about how any sort of widening would be possible there beyond a bus pull-off at the south end of Blair Park, which we could see from the diagram, but yeah.
I biked that route and looked at it and thought, gosh, was it 5 years ago, 3 years ago that they did that whole big wide sidewalk around Blair Park? And is that gonna get torn up already? I don't know. I hope not.
And I'm under the impression, though, when we do hear back from Emily, at some point, we will get more specifics on whatever the actual plan is for that project, correct?
Project specifics, I believe, would need to come from our engineering team. And we've been trying to get information, and they're providing us what they have at this stage. So we can include that in future updates as well. But I believe Emily Land's involvement would not be on the site specifics as much as on the findings that were shared with her specific to cultural resources.
Thank you. Okay. Anything else with the old business? Okay. We do not have any new public hearings, but we do have new business.
All right, while Kate gets her PowerPoint up, I'm just going to start by sharing that tonight we're going to be talking about a CDBG-funded potential sidewalk improvement project. We are joined this evening by Eric McCann. He'll come sit next to us. Eric is a new hire. He's been with the city for around the same time that Kate has, so like a little over 8 weeks. Eric has joined the Community Development Services Department as a grants specialist within the grants division. So he does not report to the planning division. He is outside of all things planning, but is within the department as a grants division within the grants division as a grants division specialist. And Eric joins us with a background in anthropology, art history, and archaeology. And Eric's position as grant specialist includes reviewing and monitoring partner agency documents for regulatory compliance and interacting with community members as it pertains to other grant programs that we have. And tonight, Eric is specifically joining us because we'll be discussing this Elm Street Sidewalk Improvement Project, which has utilized CDBG funds from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. And so those federal funds require an environmental review, which Eric has been in the process of preparing. So we are sharing with you our progress to date on that project, and that will be discussed more generally. I'll transfer things over to Kate, but if you have any questions, Eric's here to chime in if he can. Granted, you know, we're all new here, but Eric, if you'd like to introduce yourself, you're welcome to. And just say hi or something.
Hello. So I've got a pretty broad background. I have degrees in archaeology, as well as I've worked on academics and also state and federal government in the States. So the last job was in Colorado, where I managed state grant funds and primarily archaeology, tribal land improvement projects, and also working with SHPO on building, recording, nominations, all those things. So trying to bring some of that experience here to Urbana. Thank you.
Thank you. And if you flip to the section of your packet with the green tab, that is where we are now. Thank you.
Okay. I wanted to sort of present this cover letter that I've written for you, as this is an initial go around. This has not been sent to SHPO. This is meant to spark conversation and sort of request your comment and insights and thoughts, and not to end conversation. So this is highly iterative and conversation based, and I want us to be able to sort of be very collaborative on it. Okay, so this is in regards to a proposed public works replacement of brick sidewalks along East Elm Street between South Grove Street and South Urbana Avenue. The brick sidewalks specifically along South Urbana Avenue between East Main and East Elm Street. There's also, the specifics are the proposed replacement of the current brick sidewalks with Portland cement concrete sidewalk, 6 inches, with a combination curb and gutter. The project is using CDBG infrastructure funds. It was also expressed to us that the intent of this project is improved accessibility, widening of the sidewalks, and greater ease of transition from sidewalk to street. This involves a programmatic agreement that the city holds for the administration of Section 106 for certain programs funded by the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, HUD. The programmatic agreement was entered into in 2021 with the City of Urbana, the Illinois State Historic Preservation Officer, SHPO, and the Advisory Council on Historic Preservation, the ACHP. The PA enables a qualified professional on staff with the city, that would be Dr. Eric McCann, to administer Section 106 proceedings for certain HUD funds which are administered through the city's grants management division. So again, a separate division than planning. The commission's role in this is they're designated as sort of an advisory body or an expertise body within the PA. While originating with the staff QP, a determination of historic may be made with input from the commission and also SHPO. So if there's any uncertainty or requests for additional information, the commission and SHPO may both be consulted. Specifically, I wanted to call out a few sections here. When determining a historic property, the qualified professional shall review existing information within the area of potential effects. In the case that the qualified personnel has questions, he or she may forward documentation to the commission for evaluation and recommendation. That's what this is sort of presenting to you as. And also in the case that the commission has questions, the commission may forward documentation to SHPO. So sort of some concurrent processes going on.
Can I ask a question?
Go ahead.
So for this PA, given the kind of recent bypassing of the commission in areas in which it certainly has some expertise to offer, I'm a little concerned about Section 3C1, in which staff is deciding whether or not they have questions that should be forwarded to the commission. I understand that this PA was written in 2021. I did not even live in this city in 2021, so I don't know the circumstances under which that agreement in 2021 was written. And so I'd be curious as to other commissioners' recollections, understanding about why the PA was written that way. And if there's an ability to, second question, if there's an ability to update it at this point, so that the commission has a kind of more of an in-the-loop position.
So
The PA.
I can take that. So you'll see that it was created in 2021 and expiring in September of this year. And just as a reminder, or to be explicit, this PA is only in place for anything that goes through the grants division, so where specifically HUD funds are being utilized. So that kind of, and I can't speak to the intent that predates me, but that kind of limits the project scope primarily to the mission of what those grants are usually used for. So rehabilitation of rental properties, emergency response for if a boiler needs to be replaced. It does touch infrastructure projects, and I think that's what how we've seen this Elm Street sidewalks sort of case study evolve. But quite frankly, the CDBG funds have to be within an eligible census tract and then also overlay with CIP, Capital Improvement Plan objectives. So it's not as frequent, the infrastructure projects are not as frequent as our typical rehabilitation projects. So I think that just sort of helps to scope the use of this PA. With that said, in this particular instance, yes, staff would would be able to ask questions or determine whether questions would be necessary. So I think it's a valuable point, and any input or sort of conversation that comes out of this evening's discussion will certainly be used when we're reevaluating the PA moving forward.
It was also, we've met a couple times with state SHPO staff, and
Well, we're working on building those relationships.
yes, it's more sort of, let's have a conversation here, let's introduce our staff members, we have 2 new qualified professionals on staff, let's talk about these things. And it was my understanding the SHPO had a PA template of sorts that I believe they are also now updating. So as we go through the process, SHPO staff is looking back and the commission can comment. So I think we're in an open territory currently.
Yeah, great, thank you, that's helpful.
Okay, second page, we're on page 30 of the packet, the little black corner in the bottom corner. How can the commission contribute in this instance? Dr. Eric McCann, a qualified professional staff member with the Grants Management Division, has reached out to SHPO staff to obtain their historic property determination for the brick sidewalks. SHPO staff did in turn reach out to me in my capacity as the CLG contact for the city of Urbana. I requested that you all be looped in. I was a little uncomfortable with speaking for anyone. With this in mind, I know you all have just had coming off of a very recent tight turnaround for Section 106. We are also currently in a tight turnaround for this Section 106, not necessarily Section 106, but this comment. We are currently also in a tight turnaround. That Monday, April 6th date, we would request that you have comments to be shared with SHPO staff by then, or we can be flexible with that, but I believe April 12th is the cutoff. So just so you're aware that we thank you for working with us when we have these sort of tight turnarounds as we go through some growing pains with this. What are the brick sidewalks? Again, I want to just couch this in that this is meant to spark conversation, and I would welcome your comments on this. This is an initial go-around, but by no means it is the end-all be-all. The brick sidewalks denoted in this project run east-west along East Elm Street between South Grove Street and South Urbana Street, and north-south along South Urbana Avenue between East Main Street and East Elm Street. These brick sidewalks were likely originally constructed in 1896 when the city passed an Elm Street sidewalk ordinance providing for the construction of brick sidewalks along the north side of Elm Street from Grove Street to Urbana Avenue. The area was previously subdivided in the earlier 1890s as James Thorpe's Addition, or Thorpe Place, and it first appears in the Sanborn maps in 1815 in Urbana. I walked the project area on 3/24/2026. The brick sidewalks are mostly in a herringbone pattern and consist of wider pathway bricks and slimmer edge bricks. Thank you. Along the sides, herringbone patterns were historically used for paving areas because of the added strength and resiliency against shifting and deformation. There is visible color variation among the bricks and between sections of the pathway, though none have visible stamps or maker's marks. The bricks were installed on a sand base. The brick along South Urbana Avenue is mostly encased in soil and grown over with grass. Only one section, seen here, is visible. The brick along the north side of Elm is in good shape overall. Portions of the brick along the south side of Elm are in worse condition. The base here is failed, bricks are missing in sections, the edge restraint has collapsed, and tree roots have uplifted sections of the pathway. Staff believes that the brick sidewalks would not be eligible for individual designation, either locally or in the National Register of Historic Places, as individual eligibility typically requires a higher degree of significance. In this case, the paths lack a manufacturer's stamp. It's a relatively common construction method. The brick sidewalks could, though, be considered a contributing resource within a potential historic district. The only caveat to that is that many homes on this specific block have been altered. A lot of them have been demolished for apartments. These are done probably in the last 30 to 40 years at this point. So I did have some questions about whether even a district could be formed of this block or this area specifically, though I do think that the bricks are a contributing resource. The question lies with eligibility for National Register. And then in your packets, you also have the PA, the map that I just showed, and all of these photos, so I'm happy to return to whichever photos you would like in the presentation.
Well, could we back up to the overall one with the green and that one? So are the green dotted lines, is that where
That's showing sidewalk, yes.
new sidewalk? So,
Those are existing sidewalk, although the South Urbana Avenue, most of that is overgrown by soil. And
so on Urbana, for that one block between Elm and Main, only one side's getting replaced and the other side's left alone?
there is no sidewalk on the other side. So here's that one section of sidewalk on South Urbana Avenue.
Yep,
If you're to turn
it's in a,
to the east on this, if the camera were to pan to the east, there is no sidewalk there at all between the northeast corner of Elm and Urbana to the southeast corner of East Main and Urbana.
That east side of Urbana, there is no sidewalk and it's gonna stay that way.
Unclear on whether or not sidewalk will be put there, but there is currently no brick sidewalk on that side.
Thinking it should be put in,
There would be
right,
but there's just no brick one to worry about right now.
right,
Okay.
there's just nothing there in the plans, it's just grass.
And did I read somewhere, I tried to find it again, are there curbs and gutters on the street? Is that part of the whole thing, the reconstruction?
So the plans, they're going to be including, I think, you have these new additions, they have kind of the small kind of raised bumps, at the ends of,
The corner cuts?
at the corners.
Yeah.
Accessibility,
Sorry?
accessibility ramp.
Right, so I've noticed that was on a number of the intersections. So that's part of the overall package.
But they're not, that block of street is not gonna have curbs and gutters the whole length of the block?
It-
There are none there now.
The proposal mentions combination curb and gutter.
Is that just at the corner, or is that the whole block?
The intersections will have the gutter portion.
The rest of it's just dirt?
It's just gonna be sidewalk. So the focus for the gutter is at those intersections where they'll have the
Okay.
accessibility features.
But it's gonna, like, that whole area, there's no curbs and no gutters, and it's kind of like a country road, basically, and
At this point, it is.
it's gonna stay that way, it sounds like. Okay.
I could,
I'll have to follow up about that. I do think on the plans that they will have the concrete sidewalk put in. Currently, there's just nothing there. It's just
Yeah,
grass.
anyway, did you have a comment? Maybe you know more about that block.
well, when it gets to me my turn, I have several comments.
Then I'll continue. I think it's along Elm, not maybe a different picture. That's the good part there. Where we got
Would you
the
like
two,
the
there's an oak tree and a sycamore
or
there. If you replace or redid the brick and put a new base in, you're gonna end up cutting tree roots to try to keep that uplifting of the sidewalk, and if you put in concrete, they're gonna do the same thing. My suggestion is where you've got the one block, there's a wider parkway, the block farther east, and it's not really, the sidewalk's not right next to the trees, but in this block, there's a couple trees that the sidewalk is just right in the tree roots. And the city did it on my property years ago. There still is a big old maple tree that goes back to the 1800s. And the city took like 2 feet from my yard, little easement or something, there was no money exchanged, and just moved the sidewalk just slightly around the poor tree, so that if you did put new concrete in there, you wouldn't have to like chainsaw all the tree roots. I just had that suggestion, maybe you look into that, whether you are fixing the brick or putting in concrete, either one of them is gonna need a new proper base, and consider that little extra easement. On both of these, there'd be a little room to move the sidewalk. So that was my second comment.
Go ahead, please.
Okay, so I'm Dennis Roberts, and I live smack dab in the middle of this neighborhood, at the corner of Green and Grove. So Elm Street is just a block north of me. And there's a couple things that I'd like, since this is a conversation, I'd like to suggest. First, we have a kind of an important neighborhood association called HUNA, the Historic East Urbana Neighborhood Association. That was founded back in 2003, maybe. And we have a white paper with the city concerning our preferences for preservation and new construction and the kinds of things that one would consider when changes are occurring in a neighborhood that's near the downtown, but is basically an old home cottage neighborhood that served originally for the workers at the Roundhouse and the Big Four train yard that was just north of us. And the tracks still go where Emulsa Code is today, and the MTD building on Main Street. And I'm sure that nobody in the HUNA Neighborhood Association has any idea that these things are happening, that this project is being considered. Secondly, in 2002, an ordinance was drafted by the city council before I got on it, but it was during the administration of Laurel Pressing, which demarcated certain streets in the East Urbana and West Urbana as primarily brick sidewalks and major brick sidewalk streets. So I went back to my old notes and I copied out not only the original ordinance, which I've given everybody a copy here on the table, so you probably want to read this, and the maps that were drawn, which indicates which streets and which sidewalks are considered most significant, because it's called the Historic East Urbana Neighborhood Association. So it's not an official landmarked district. It's not a historic district, but it has stated its importance and its the importance of the historic nature of our community particularly. And that in these, in the ordinance, it indicates that any street that is indicated by any sidewalk that's along a street indicated with a red marking, there has to be a consensus on the block of the homeowners before a brick sidewalk can be removed. But it is true that in that section of Elm Street, the sidewalks are not so protected. I'm not quite sure why. I think it was some kind of tit for tat with the Planning Commission or with the other parts of the city government, Public Works. But we had the expectation that brick sidewalks would be maintained. During, I don't know, about 10 years ago, there was a concern that came before the Historic Preservation, not the Preservation Commission, but the neighborhood, where the city wanted to replace both sides of Green Street, north and south, or east and west rather, from Vine to Cottage Grove with cement. And our neighborhood association convinced the city that we agreed that there's having a accessible pathway from downtown to Victory Park, which is in our neighborhood, was important for wheelchair accessibility. But that to keep our brick sidewalk identification of importance, we agreed that the north side could become cement if the south side could be maintained as a brick sidewalk, and that's what was decided ultimately. So I think that the Historic East Urbana Neighborhood Association ought to be informed that there's a change in recommendation by staff that's going forward lickety-split, and we don't even know about it in my neighborhood concerning the sidewalks. I have a couple of email papers with emails on them from past considerations about replacement of brick sidewalks, which from all the members and that wanted to comment about it at the time in my community, which I can give to you too. That's not current information, but it's certainly recent. we've had successful replacement of one large north-south section of Anderson done by the, I think it was the water utility, American, that's not the right one. American Water, that's the guys. And they actually voluntarily replaced entire brick sidewalk after they ran out, replaced a pipeline under it for the whole length of the sidewalk. So it's always great to try to maintain the historic quality of our downtown. You could find that quite a few of the streets in East Urbana are brick streets. They're under the macadam, tarred over, but Illinois Street is one of the streets that remains brick throughout the whole part of our neighborhood, which is interesting because it's also one of the main traffic flow patterns for the police department and answering calls to the community. So those are things that I want to point out, that the idea is that these sidewalks have not been maintained since probably 2012 by city funding. At that point, there was a series of sidewalks that were maintained under Bill, let's see, what was the Public Works gentleman? Bill, oh, I can't remember his last name. Gray, Bill Gray. But then, you know, because brick, it takes a little bit more money to reestablish a brick sidewalk than to pour cement. Ultimately, it was defunded. And there was a question about vegetative growth on the brick sidewalks. Well, in the city ordinance, it is up to the individual homeowners to keep their sidewalks clear, not only of ice or leaves, but actually of grass. Now, it's hardly ever been fulfilled or supported by the city. The city has not gone out and notified individuals that your sidewalk doesn't meet standards that would be appropriate. And there's a lot of concern about how the sidewalks shift in time. But there's also a lot of concern about cement slabs that shift. And if you walk down the street, you'll find that many times the cement slabs will be altered. One will be lifted up and the one will drop down. So there's tripping hazards there as well. So I'm a proponent for brick sidewalks because I live in an area that it was one of the things that drew me to buy a house in that neighborhood is the historic quality of it. And as a solution, I have promoted in the past, and I promote today, that it's very possible to work with community organizations, including the local Bricklayers Union, I think it's number 8, and the Regional Planning Commission, which has a workforce youth program in its budget, to build a youth training program to establish a group of young men who learn how to relay the brick sidewalks and then can be used by the city or by the community members to, well, it gives them the skill of becoming a bricklayer. It's not a vertical wall, but it's maintaining something very important in our community that's not maintained by the city and its money, by this brick sidewalks. And the grants that you're applying for are super wonderful because, as you say, the grants are for particular census tract parts of the neighborhood who have low incomes as a general means of income for the neighborhood. So these grants are extremely important for infrastructure especially. So those grants were used to put lighting on 2 streets in East Urbana back in like 2008, to complete lighting that was never installed by the city when it was when the platting was done. And yes, my neighborhood has no gutters at all. Yes, it's like living on a farm lane. We just park on our grass, even though we do get tickets if we are parked somehow inappropriately on the side of the road, but there's no curb. And we don't really expect there'll be a curb there in the near future. We haven't had a curb on my block since I moved in 1996. It's kind of interesting that it's like the one area of the city that doesn't have curbs, and it's right behind the city building, but it doesn't seem to matter to anybody. So there's a lot of issues here, and CBDG grants are so important to us. But I want you to contact the Houston Neighborhood Association and involve the commission in considering what's historic and what's not. And for some areas of the city, already these are considered historic treats that have some protection, even though the protection is never granted to them, actually. So that's my 25-minute explanation.
Thank you. So the project is project managed by our colleagues in Public Works, specifically in the engineering team. So we will request follow-up regarding the communication that's happened with the public to date. Granted, we're very early in the project conception, and so I'm not sure if that public noticing has happened or not. So that's something we can follow up on.
Thanks, that's great.
Then I do also just want to respond that we are in fact seeking your input tonight. So that Kate has prepared this initial input and evaluation, but we're welcome to take your comments and package them and share them with our contact at
Yes, I could give.
My
I could
intent
give-
is simply to directly,
Yeah.
it would be nice, I think the format worked well last time, when if you email me your thoughts, and then that goes literally to a PDF, to an email, to the person. So I think that is my intent also with this project, in the sense that you email me your thoughts, and then I email them to SHPO, so.
So would you then accept, well, I don't know, then do you want me to summarize all the documents that I've printed out for you to take and to consider at this time?
Yeah, if you that's what you feel is important, then I think that's good
Okay,
practice.
all right. But I still want you to be looking and aware of the documents because
Yes,
there's,
yep.
some of them are ordinances of the city, so.
I
Yeah.
will just, and this is purely just to provide information that we have so that we're all on the same page. My understanding is that so the city is aware of the ordinance. These sidewalks were not found to be major brick walk blocks as defined in the ordinance.
Yes,
And all abutting owners, property owners have provided letters of support to date.
so that's good. Then you are following some of the
We're-
requests that are, okay,
We're making sure we're following the ordinance.
Okay.
Yes. That's my current understanding.
all right. But I'm just a real big proponent for maintaining brick sidewalks. Not every single one, but, and I think about how it can be done too, in a feasible manner.
I will just say that, so when I took on the project, I did have that map that you're showing here with the different colors. So when I was looking at Elm, I did see the treatment that it was in black. And then I also followed up also on the signatures, for the, having the brick replaced. And so that's what I brought up also with SHPO too, was that, we have this in place outside of the ordinances as well. So I've included all those things in my letter.
Yeah, it's possible that some of the members of the HBC maybe don't have full knowledge of everything that happened back in the old days.
I just want to say, thank you for bringing this to us. So my concern about the idea that staff would make these decisions without input from the commission, I appreciate that we're doing this now because it does give the opportunity for folks to try to ensure that there's public participation even beyond the commission in these assessments. And I think it's a great opportunity to have discussions because I would, from some of my experience, I think that some of these portions of sidewalks are significant. And that it doesn't require a maker's mark to achieve a level of significance. So I do think there is conversation out there about what kind of standards cultural landscapes need to meet, what kind of standards, what kind of flexibility exists in guidelines now as we understand that buildings change over time and are not necessarily fixed. And so I do think the consultative nature of these kinds of things is great because there is no one way that we understand the guidelines for historic preservation, and it requires contemplation and discussion.
Were you going to say something?
I did want to, just from looking at those pictures, and I bicycled all those sidewalks there, and not all of it, half of it is in horrible shape. And something needs to be done, whether it's rehab brick or new concrete, but I'm glad that there's some progress on doing something because it needs it.
Thanks. And yeah, and I want to reiterate, I appreciate that you brought this to us. And I agree. I'm glad that we were able to have this kind of conversation. I understand the significance and importance of the brick. We also want to make sure that we're an accessible city, and so it's just a lot. It's complicated. So I really appreciate that we have, you all on staff as well to give this a thorough review, and everybody here to add their comments. Did you want to say something, David?
I had just a quick question in terms of helping you get to this Monday, April 6th deadline. So if Dennis is compiling information and sharing that, what other sorts of input would be most helpful for going into that packet? I'm assuming, given the scope of this, we're not doing like an assessment of trees, or, I
Right.
mean, it's
I-
pretty narrow,
I think
other than.
I think really any and all thoughts, but specifically, what Ms. Holliday was referencing of there are, standards now can be so broad, and the conversation on what is significant and what is not varies from state to state. It's more modernized now. We're considering more things we hadn't considered before. So I think having your comments and your insights as commissioners on that topic would be valuable, on how you see significance for the sidewalks, the block as a whole. I believe section of the PA, page 4 of the PA, page 34 of your packet, Part D, a property shall be considered a historic property when one or more of the following applies. These are what staff is going off of, and then also what SHPO is referencing. That might be good to think about in your comments, just so you have some structure. If you wanted to take your own photos, otherwise I will transmit these ones. I tried to get a pretty even coverage of all of them, but we can also add additional photos too, if you'd like.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other additional comments or questions? Okay. And yes, any comments that come from us will go to you by April 6th.
April 6th, if possible, yes. And I will do, if it's all right with everyone, a similar thing that I did with Florida Avenue, where they get put into a PDF packet and sent directly. And would you like me to send that to you prior
Sure.
to? Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
Okay,
All
thank
right.
you.
And do you have more on that? Okay. All right, great. So going to the monitoring of historic properties, is there anything to report on the existing historic properties that we are all reviewing on, monitoring, I should say? Go ahead.
I guess the only one I'll really comment on is the Royer House at 710 West Oregon. That's the Van Doren House. Anyway, the Royer House on Busey and Oregon. It's still for sale, and it's empty. And I don't know, I haven't talked to the owner for a long time. So I don't know if there's anything active or what's being proposed for it, but just makes me a little nervous that it's sitting there empty. And anyway, that's about all I had to say. Everything else that I had to look at is status quo.
Thanks. Anyone else have anything to add? No? Okay. Okay, now we have the staff report, if you're ready.
There are none.
Okay. All right, and then we have 2 items under the study session. One on the Urbana Civic Center, and then the other on the Section 106 process review. So we'll start with the Civic Center.
I think I'm just gonna grab my notes. Okay, good evening. We are just going to have a continuation of our 2 ongoing study sessions. The first being the discussion of the Urbana Civic Center at 108 East Water. And we've started discussing that back in February, so it's a continuation of that discussion. If you want to flip to the yellow tab in your packet, which is page 53 of the packet, we provided a cover sheet or this summary of discussion to date. There is an upcoming presentation to City Council. My understanding is that the board, the Historic Preservation Commission, has reached out and is scheduling or has confirmed scheduling for the April 6th meeting.
Yeah, I can explain that. So recognizing that it would be nice to present also at this meeting along with Public Works about our take on this process and buildings. So I did send an email to Kate Levy or Levy, I don't know how it.
I think it's Levy.
Levy, yesterday at 10:26 a.m., so a few minutes before the deadline, requesting a 10-minute slot at the upcoming Monday, the same meeting, and then Kate wrote back to say, how do you frame, or what is the exact topic for this? And I wrote also today to say, the focus of our presentation will be the Urbana Civic Center and the role of the Historic Preservation Commission in city consultative and decision-making processes. And I added, I will touch base with my fellow commissioners this evening to confirm who among us will attend to deliver the presentation and answer questions. And I will send that information to you as soon as I have it. So I jumped in on that regard. I sent a copy of it. You should have received a copy of it, Angela, so in your email. And I also sent one to Kate Holliday. And I know we've talked about the idea, Kate is willing to present. I'm going to be present in presenting as well. But it just seemed important to not wait on this, but instead to be co-present, if that makes sense, at something where I assume they're going to be talking about structural issues. In making my request, I copied that to City Commissioner Chris Evans, and so he followed up to indicate his support. I mean, for that to be included, and seconded, if needed, by Grace Wilkin of Ward 6.
Great, so it sounds like you're confirmed for the 6th then.
Yeah.
And it's not, so that process for getting on the council agenda portion of this sheet was followed, and so you're in, which is great. And just, for the folks listening, there will also be on that same evening, so the evening of April 6th, Public Works staff will be presenting on the Civic Center and its existing conditions, and also focusing on the master facilities plan, capital improvement plan, and then just again, that summary of existing conditions. So I asked Public Works to make the same presentation that they will be bringing on April 6th at our next HPC meeting, which is scheduled for early May. So if anyone is unable to attend on the 6th or has a conflict, Public Works staff will be available, facilities staff specifically will be available at the May HPC meeting for further discussion and questions. Are there any, I believe May 6th would be our next Historic Preservation Committee meeting. Is Is there any questions or input on that?
I have a question. I think it would be really wonderful for the commission to have an opportunity to walk through the building.
Okay. I can't speak for the facilities staff, so I will, we can pass that along.
Yeah. I believe that Mr. Gustafson was very cordial in allowing the students in the architecture department to tour it themselves while they were doing the process. So I would think that we should be able to have the same ability to do it. And it would be real interesting if somebody in the public works would be there also to point out what they felt were the structural problems of the building, because they weren't really, it's not really evident to me when I look through the windows or when I think about the last time I was in the building. Except for, I've heard, complaints about the kitchen and that the roof leaked, but I couldn't imagine structural issues that were super significant. I don't know. So it'd be interesting to know.
Certainly,
Why?
I'm sure that's something that will be addressed in the presentation as well, but there's an opportunity for further dialogue there.
Also, I wonder if the commission should make a similar approach to the MTD board itself. They're the people who have the most direct interest in the project, and maybe we can dialogue with them a little bit and see about, what kind of flexibility in their thinking, or are they very set, and have they got it would be really nice to know if they have already designed a site plan and why demolition is so important to achieve their goal at that site.
So I will chime in here. You're welcome to discuss amongst yourselves. I don't want to dominate this conversation by any means, but in our previous Historic Preservation Commission meeting, there were some questions that were posed kind of just generally for MTD input. I was able to get feedback from Ashley McLaughlin on answers, or at least initial feedback on some of those questions, which I'm happy to provide tonight. I will just preface this by saying that I don't speak for MTD, and if you have any specific or detailed follow-ups, I really do encourage you to reach out to her, and she's expressed that she's more than welcome to field emails or phone calls from you all. So just to preface that, there was this sort of ongoing question about whether or not a schematic drawing exists or has been produced. My understanding is that what is available today is a massing, a very general, simplistic massing. I think it's been referred to as a conceptual schematic, but when I requested more information on that, it's simply that a massing drawing has been produced and that no A&E staff or services have been rendered for this project because the MTD does not own the site, and no designs or detailed drawings were required for either of the grants that they were considering, nor was that required for the NEPA process. So my understanding is that to date, all that exists is a massing study of the lot, and at this stage, MTD requested that not be shared. I don't have one for you here today. So it's no schematic drawing exists. And let's see. There was also a question about how would we know, or how would MTD know if a bus could turn or have the appropriate turning radius on the site. And that is something the response was simply that physical turning radii is one of several space requirements we need to consider. But beyond that massing study and some initial sort of thoughts from their engineering or from their staff, no detailed analysis was done on that. The other question I had highlighted was just a question regarding other sites that were considered, or if other sites were considered at all. I know that was something that Mr. Roberts was interested in, and the answer is simply that given the limited availability of open space downtown, many of those locations were privately owned, that could have been considered were privately owned, And at this stage, you know, MTD had no interest in moving forward with displacing existing businesses or residents or anything like, or having additional complexity. There was a intergovernmental agreement that existed between the city and MTD dating back to 2014, I believe, maybe earlier, but I think it was 2014, basically under Mayor Laurel Pressing, that stated that the city was fully in support of this project. So that's over 10 years ago. There was this sort of foundation of understanding that that site would be supported from the city's perspective for development of this bus transfer station. So there's been this long-standing understanding between entities that that site would be feasible. And at this stage, I don't have additional detail on other sites that were considered. Of course, that IGA is available and dates back to 2014. So we sort of, it's expired, but there's been this long-standing kind of understanding in place that the current Civic Center site would be feasible for this project. I hope that helps to answer some questions, and again, certainly welcome the commissioners to reach out to MTD should they have more questions.
Can you remind us what year was it basically closed and not an option to utilize anymore? Wasn't that about 10 years ago as well?
No, a little bit more recently, maybe. Was it 2018? It was pre-pandemic. I apologize, I don't know the exact date, but 2018 stands out in my mind. I know that there was council action that took place to formally shutter the Civic Center, and it was decided by the council at the time.
I think maybe, when did Diane Marlin first get elected? So that would be, I think it was, she came up with the idea, didn't she, right after she took office the first time? So that would probably be about 8 years ago, about 2018, so that's probably close.
Just looked it up. The closure of the, it was being proposed, this is being discussed in June of 2019.
Okay.
It was also discussed in 2018, so it is right around there. I had it in my head as like January 2019, but we're in the ballpark.
Yeah.
Oh, and something, it says it was closed in 2019, but I don't have the specific month yet.
Okay, thanks. And just a comment, on page 54, it says April 4th, but I'm wondering if that memo is meant to say April 1st?
Oh, yes.
Okay. Just making sure that there wasn't something else we needed to do in a few days.
No, thank you. April Fool's Day. No, it's a typo. So page 53 is that continuation of the Civic Center conversation. I don't have anything additional to share at this point, so if the commission would like to discuss amongst themselves, they're welcome to. Otherwise, we can move on to the Section 106 continuation. But
I just want to say thank you, David, for a few minutes before the 10:30 deadline requesting to be added to the agenda for next week. I think, I agree that's important to have just another perspective brought up to the council at the same meeting.
Yeah, well, I know that individually and/or collectively, we have more than 10 minutes of content. So the question is, we can all be there. I mean, if you're available, I think it would be wonderful. And I know that Laura isn't here tonight because she teaches on Wednesdays at Eastern. So it might even be possible to get a clean sweep of everyone. But I think it would make an impression for us to be present and to discuss now, or we should do it now, who would like to deliver the presentation and to assemble it. And I did have a message today saying that, unfortunately, I believe it's by tomorrow, if we want a PowerPoint content to be included in the packet that's delivered to the, it's right in front of me. This is from Chris Evans to me. I have checked with the Urbana City Clerk. The Historic Preservation Commission is scheduled to give a 10-minute presentation, yes, at the Monday, April 6th City Council meeting to discuss. Yeah. Do you need to use the computer for a PowerPoint presentation? The answer will be no doubt yes. And do you want these slides given to the council? And then it says in this Thursday's agenda packet. So I don't know what the deadline is for that, but that's tomorrow. So would be nice, but can't imagine that's physically possible. So maybe we can take a tally of people who would like to be present, and then we can talk a little bit about who would like to take the lead or have something to say in delivering that, and then figure out a way to put this together in advance without violating any rules.
Yeah, I mean, I will certainly attend myself, but I think I heard interest from Kate that you would be willing to give the presentation?
I'm happy to give part of it, but I think in 10 minutes, there's room for someone beside. I'm pretty efficient. So I would be happy to talk, I think, about historic preservation as something that's of like real value to city decision-making. And that when you leave it out, you're leaving tools in the toolkit that you should have actually on the workbench. And so I'm happy to kind of talk about that part and how we would love to be viewed as a positive consultative body. And certainly the discussion around the Urbana Civic Center, there's still a lot of opportunity to reframe historic preservation in that way. I think other people probably have been here longer and know more about the Civic Center itself. And so I think there's room for more than one voice.
Well, I guess I should ask then, commission members, you can answer individually, but is anyone able to attend or not able to attend? I guess if you could just, let's get that down first.
Okay, well, I'm happy to attend.
I could probably be there, yeah. I have to confirm, but I would be willing to come, yes.
The meeting starts at 7 o'clock, and I assume it typically runs for a couple of hours, so I don't know where we'd be in the program.
If we've got 10 minutes, I think it makes sense for one or two people to talk. And I think it could be awfully confusing if we all had a minute and a half. So I would say smaller number than 6 or 7.
I don't think the intent needs to be that we each say something, because I think that will take up too much of our time and we have too much to say. But just being present, you know, and it can be indicated by the speaker that the commission is here and present.
Also,
I can go.
part of the process is we have up to 10 minutes, but it's unlimited time for questions, discussion. So having many people present could be really helpful because you may have some information that only one or two people wouldn't have.
I've got a question. Also, I mean, we could be present to support it, and we could speak as individuals as well, couldn't we?
Yes, during the public input portion of the agenda, any member of the public has, I believe, 5 minutes at the microphone in the audience.
Mm-hmm.
That's correct.
And do we want to, does the commission have an opinion about the importance of the historic property? And does the commission have an opinion about advocating its preservation? And not just talking about the process of when we get consulted?
Right, so we didn't really get to finish our conversation last month, but we received a letter from the mayor, and we kind of indicated some thoughts that were related to that letter. And I would hope too that within the presentation, we should probably acknowledge some of those points that we brought up even last month. Because it's not that we're necessarily on two separate pages from what is, what the intent would be of utilizing the space for, community and et cetera, like, as the letter mentioned last month. But, so I think we would want to not only advocate for the historic value, but also how we are not against progress, in a sense.
Can I just say that I think one of the key things the commission is asked to weigh in on that we didn't get to weigh in on is the SHPO's determination that the building is eligible for the National Register of Historic Places. And that is specifically a business item that we should have been able to discuss. Like a typical kind of response there might be, hey, this is eligible for the National Register, let's nominate it. And that has certainly, that was bypassed in the process. And so I do think something the commission could have an opinion on is whether or not, because the SHPO determined that this is appears to be an eligible property, would the commission support a nomination to the National Register, right? Is that something that seems feasible, possible, or is there something that the commission determines that says, actually, we don't think that this is a property that's eligible for the National Register? Because that is actually like the scope of what our contribution is supposed to be.
So I feel that obviously it could be very easily. I mean, SHPO already said that it was eligible. They told us that it was eligible pretty much in the report. But I would like to stress too that we think that adaptive reuse is a possibility, and depending upon the configuration of the future plan for the property, a great section of the building could be repurposed. I guess then it becomes a question of, does the whole building have to be preserved as is, or can some of the creative reuses that we've seen from Professor Altschuler's class presentations be, that we'd like to work with the development of the concepts of the development of the site, so that maybe a significant part of the building would be incorporated, but that the building could have, multi-dimensional new realities, attached to it, just like, the Roy Hotel's got an addition that came much later, and it looks rather different and was not considered a contributing feature to the hotel itself when it was nominated. So, can we stand and, can we promote
I'm hearing a number of
creative
pieces.
reuse?
Sorry. Well, unfortunately, what I'm hearing is like 4 pieces of content, which then gets a little long. Well, one of them I'm hearing me saying to myself, I'm just reminded, I've spoken in contexts in the state about what is history to begin with. I mean, history people think is the past. You're not preserving the past. It's historic. History is interpretation of the past. And just laying out some basic working definitions, I think, can be helpful. Like, I think our commission would be greatly helped if our name was changed to the Historic Preservation and Adaptive Reuse Commission. Something, I mean,
Dynamite.
It would be really, really, really helpful, because suddenly it's redundant, but from our understanding, but it isn't redundant from most people's understanding. In fact, it sounds really different. It sounds like before and after somehow. So I would relish the opportunity just to say some prefatory remarks about history and historic preservation. Kate, if the content is about the importance of historic preservation in then this specific context of decision making in a city, which they might not have considered, if somebody can talk briefly about the specific value of the Urbana Civic Center, that's a nice piece. And then even to then touch on some of the questions that have come up for us, like as we think about this, we think about X and Y and Z, and we invite them to do that. I mean, we only have 10 minutes. But if we're really succinct and rehearsed on it, it could be effective.
It could be 2 slides. It could be summarized as 2 slides, perhaps.
I think one of the things that I would want to touch on are stereotypes about historic preservation, and that we have an opportunity not to think in terms of those stereotypes that historic preservation is often viewed as being something that has a stranglehold on community decisions. It's often viewed as a barrier to community economic development. It's often viewed simply as a roadblock, and that once you landmark something, you can never change it again, and it's locked like a tombstone. And none of those things are true. Historic preservation is creative. Historic preservation is community economic development and brings great benefits to communities. And historic preservation actually allows creative intervention in landmark buildings in numerous ways. And we have all kinds of wonderful examples of historic preservation, landmark buildings, having creative reinterpretation changes that are like respect the history and integrity of the building, but also give it new life. And so I do think that my perception here is certainly that historic preservation is viewed within a very narrow set of boundaries. And in fact, we really should think of it as something else entirely, which is like an incredibly important tool for cities, especially cities like Urbana, to better position themselves to utilize the resources that they have to meet the needs of the future.
And to even recognize that they have these wonderful resources, and not to think of them as just old buildings, but to think of them as the heart and expression of the community during one of its most vital eras. And of course, the suburbs are the result of prosperity from the center core originally, so.
Yeah, I think with the 10-minute, within the 10-minute presentation, there's the very general, like Commissioner Hayes was discussing, and there's the very specific, like the Section 106 process. That and the as it relates to the city. So I think there's a narrowing down of the very general, what is history, there's the what is historic preservation, then it kind of gets down to what is the civic center, and then what is the Section 106 process. I think it follows a nice format.
So what I'm wondering there is maybe, during the days ahead, Kate and I sit briefly and we coordinate like the first two parts of that. So bringing from something relatively general into something more specific. Do any of us feel prepared to talk for a few minutes about what is the value of the Urbana Civic Center? And in this sense, we were, I know, all impressed with Professor Altschuler's presentation. So it could even mean, like, this is as has been shown by Professor Altschuler recently, this is a building that has a history. This is a building that is of interest. As Dennis, you were just saying, this was the heart of the community, during one of its vital periods. And so it can mean simply summarizing what we heard and saying, yes, we agree with that. So it doesn't mean, has to mean developing new content in terms of personal experiences. And then Section 106, can we bring it back to Kate for Section 106? Because you know it inside and out.
I've given such exciting presentations on Section 106. I know everyone wants to hear them so much. I'm happy to address anything that it feels like people would like addressed.
And I want to bring up my hometown city actually went through a situation like this with their civic center, much bigger civic center, where for many years it was sort of a back and forth. And at some point it was decided not to demolish, but sadly, because it just wasn't kept up in good repair, even though I'm from the South, there was snow. The snow just, the roof just completely caved in and the whole place was just ruined.
It's a strategy.
It's a strategy, right. And so, I mean, that too is concerning of just, neglect, right? If we don't make a decision, we being the city in that sense, a decision would be made for us, right? And so I just mentioned that because we're not the only ones struggling with civic centers coming up for potential being demolished. Unfortunately, it's happening widely across our country in various places. And so, yes, if somebody feels strongly and wants to speak on that, please, by all means. I see fingers hovering, so please.
A lot of people looking down here. I don't have the standing of a professor to speak with authority based on that surety of experience in the field, but I am an enthusiast, and I don't know if my contribution would be of value to this. I mean, maybe somebody with a little more gravitas should, fill the other spot, but I do intend to speak that evening, and if you need me to say something in 2 minutes, I could do that.
You've served on the city council,
I
right?
did.
So there's a lot more gravitas in that than in what I bring in my job.
Mostly
we all-
opinion. That's all you
But,
see.
so, to expedite, I mean, is there anybody who's particularly anxious to do something in particular? Like, Trent, are you really anxious to get in there and to lead a discussion or lead a part of the presentation? Are you there for reinforcements?
I
Okay.
am not.
If
And-
there's
and
any,
I have, I won't say mixed feelings about the Civic Center, but I've been in there a lot over a long period of time, and I don't have strong feelings about
okay,
whether it needs to stay just the way it is or can be chopped up.
yeah.
I'm
And-
hoping for the best for the building.
And to be clear there, I mean, consistent with historic preservation and adaptive reuse, our opinion is not that it should be ossified as is and remain this carbuncle, like that they're making it out through neglect, but instead, it's Professor Altschuler and his students have given us a prompt. It's a nice reminder to people, wait a minute, this thing has a lot of potential, and we recognize that. So maybe there are really 3+ parts, but how about if, unless anyone is like really anxious to do this, how about if Kate and I meet, we kind of map out something, and we may call upon you to say, hey, we'd really like you to present portion X. Because we could also, I mean, to simplify, we could tag team where I say something general about history and Kate says something more specific, but still relatively general, but brings it into the city council kind of scenario. Then I say something about Professor Altschuler's presentation, and then Kate says something about section 106, and we're done. Yeah? Okay, so that might be a way to do it. But
I think it's also important that we introduce ourselves as people, we're this kind of this abstract commission. I don't
Yeah.
know, I don't recall ever going to a city council meeting as a commission. I think putting some faces.
where does it take place? That's a joke.
And do we have to have this is just a
far do we
procedural
have to
thing,
go to
like a
get
OMA quorum, if we're all gonna be there
No.
at the meeting?
No.
It's a publicly noticed meeting already, so I
Okay,
think
yeah,
we're all
all right,
set, but I
okay.
can of course confirm, yeah.
That just crossed my mind.
Yeah,
But the OMA would apply leading up to that, just as a reminder.
and I would say, I would add too, though, that it's not only the presentation that was given a couple of months ago, but tying it back to the importance of the Civic Center itself, to our city, just more widely, civic centers and the importance they carry with the city. To not have a civic center is a big deal. So wherever that is placed, it's really important to get in there too.
Would you like to say something about that as part of this? I mean, we can refer to that also if you'd like, and just say in question discussion or.
Yeah, I mean, I could, I don't want to take away our time because we only have the 10 minutes. So, I mean, as you two map it out and look at the timing, that's going to be crucial. But yeah, the various parts that we really want, the main points that we want to hit. And yeah, sure, the Civic Center part, like I can certainly speak that from like an urban planning point of view.
Brilliant.
So, but also I don't want to take away the time, so just be mindful of that.
Okay. Thank you, fellow commissioners. I think we've got that. We'll square it away and follow up, and we look forward to seeing you there. If you don't hear from us, it means we're sweating it out, putting together our PowerPoint presentation. Thank you.
And I'll send an email to Laura as well to see if she's available, because it sounds like we might have everybody.
You know what? I'll do that right now, because then I will be able, since I'll be sending in the email. with the
Please,
list.
yes.
Thanks.
Okay. Okay, so it sounds like we are moving on from the Urbana Civic Center study session. But now, Section 106 process review, which is related.
Yes, so the pink tab in your packet, there should be a revision there dated April 1st at the top of page 1. This is just exactly the same document that was provided at our previous meeting, which I believe was now March 4th. And I think that might be where that typo came from, because it was the March 4th document that we just reproduced here for ease. This is just meant to give you all an opportunity for discussion as it relates to how we can improve or refine upon our staff and commission communication, specifically around the Section 106 process, or potentially codifying process steps within the commission's bylaws. And so at the at the onset, I'll say that staff are working on this internally, but we need, especially when it comes to the communication part of this, we do need the commission's input. We have actively, as Kate Himmick mentioned earlier in this evening's agenda, we've been actively working to build relationships and establish connections with SHPO. So we had an initial introductory meeting with the SHPO office on March 12th, and that was specifically relevant as we were beginning to review and understand the programmatic agreement that's in place that was shared earlier this evening, specifically for that federally funded grants work. So we've established a relationship and rapport with CJ Wallace, who is the manager of regulatory review and compliance. We sort of had the opportunity to meet some of their other staff as well. And then on March 31st, we had an opportunity, I was not in that meeting, but members of the staff had an opportunity to meet with John Presley, who's the Certified Local Grant Program Coordinator and Historic Preservation Fund Manager for SHPO IDNR. And he, we're just starting these conversations. We're all new, all the staff is new, so it's a matter of making sure everybody has the right emails and is on the same page, and we're having those Teams meetings when we can. And I'm sure that process will continue.
And Olivia, I just want to comment, John's the CLG, Certified Local Government Manager. So he's overseeing all of the municipalities in Illinois that have been recognized as certified local governments for their expertise in having an active commission.
Thank you. And that's something that we're also sort of trying to investigate and understand better, is the role of the CLG status as it relates to all of this. So lots of things that the staff are currently working on tracking down. But if that helps to sort of, let you know where we are internally, those are evolving and ongoing conversations. And then some of the potential recommendations was that we could treat the management of Section 106 projects like cases. So that's something that we're also working on internally. So historic preservation work, it happens under the umbrella of the planning division, and we have a case management sort of tool, internal schedule that we follow 35 days out once we receive the complete application. And then there are certain internal milestones and, you know, external milestones with noticing and things like that. So something we're working on is developing that internal sort of best practice for when this is received, how do we kind of usher it through staff review. So not much more to add beyond what was already shared, and welcome your input. I know it's also late, so we can continue this conversation at a further point, but we are moving on this, and we would love to hear if there's been any sort of consideration to improvement.
I just have one quick comment, which is I am actually working on a project right now about CLGs in general in Illinois, but also nationally. So to the extent that whatever questions you're having, if there are things that you would like comparative information on, I'm happy to try to incorporate that into the kind of data scraping that we're doing. So just so you know that that's something I'm looking at. Yep.
Okay.
Is there any comments on this that we, go ahead.
I just also wanted to say that May is typically Preservation Month, and May is actually incredibly close, which is kind of alarming in some ways. But on May 23rd, we are once again doing a mid-century modern open house. The Champaign County History Museum is kind of the lead organizer of that open house. There will be a panel in the morning of historic preservation folks. So Anthony Rubano from the State Historic Preservation Office will be on that panel Saturday morning, May 23rd, along with Scott Mahaffey, who's Executive Director of the Farnsworth House, Dr. Edith Farnsworth House in Plano, Illinois, which is a property of the National Trust for Historic Preservation. That panel will be held at the First Presbyterian Church of Urbana on Green Street, which was designed by Dick Williams, who is, of course, a very important architect that was based here in Champaign, Urbana, and taught at the university. There'll be multiple other open houses associated with the day after the panel is over. I can share a couple of them. The Bethel AME Church of Champaign will be a part of the open house. There'll be a private house two private houses near Hessel Park, along with a couple of other institutional buildings and like 2 other houses that I don't want to announce because we're still working on it. But there'll be a very significant opportunity, and I would encourage anyone who wants to volunteer. You get a free T-shirt. And access to houses a little bit early, and you get a big thank you from a lot of people. And so if you're interested in volunteering or more information, just let me know, and I'm happy to share.
And the volunteering would be like standing around in a house, maybe answering a few questions, that kind of?
Yes,
Okay.
and there are 2 shifts. So the open house is from 1 to 5 p.m. in the afternoon, and so like last year, it's a 1 to 3 p.m. and a 3 to 5 p.m. shift, so only 2 hours. You don't have to be standing for the entire 4 hours. And there is a volunteer training session on the Thursday before where we'll share a little bit of information about all the properties, a little bit of a preview opportunity. And the job really is just to keep people from going into rooms that they're not supposed to go into, and to help shepherd people through and answer questions. Yep. It's really fun.
It's great, yeah. Yeah, the last one was great.
And just like to the historic preservation is fun piece, this is really fun. We had over 300 people last year. Champaign County History Museum has said no limits to ticket sales this year, so we'll keep our fingers crossed that we have a ton of people coming. Tons and tons of local interest, people coming down from Chicago, so just a really big, fun day.
I just wanted to ask, it sounds like Champaign County History Museum is doing a lot of the advertising. I was wondering if, I think in the past the city has posted it with your publications. I don't remember her name. Maybe somebody new now, but I think in previous years it's been advertised through the city as well.
Yep.
Is there any other areas that Or are there any other areas that you know of that is being advertised to?
So
Widely.
the Champaign County History Museum is supposed to be handling publicity this year. Last year, the Cranard Art Museum also helped because the exhibition was up, and they won't this year. So we could use any help at all getting the word out and letting people see some of these pretty cool spaces that are typically not open to the public. Yep.
And I don't think we did it last year, but the few years prior, we would do like, even like the city would help us set up booths in the farmer's market area. Are you wanting us to do that this year, or?
I think if there's interest in doing a booth at the farmer's market, I think that would be great. We didn't do it last year, but we did do it the year before.
When does the market open? Is it beginning of May?
I think it's the first weekend of May. Brian Heaton is the market coordinator, so any kind of sort of coordination on booths or tables would need to go through him. But he's been the market coordinator for, I think, a very long time, so we can certainly get in touch with him. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay, so yeah, if you said that is something of interest.
I think that it would be a great way to get the word out and to support the city's kind of public engagement and preservation.
Okay, yeah, so that is something we could probably do, and we've done in the past, and it was pretty simple, because we worked with the city, and you all helped provide like a table and a tent, like a tent, and then we brought volunteers out there, so it was pretty, simple to set up that morning of, or the weeks before.
I certainly can't commit Brian to anything without speaking to him, but if you all send an email, we can start that process internally.
We're not asking right now, we're just saying that's what we've done in the past multiple years. Okay, is there anything else on this section 106 or comments with what Kate's brought up regarding May?
Do you think suggested improvements to the bylaws would be welcome? So I'd welcome the commissioners to think about that. I know that there had been, my understanding at least is predating our new staff and myself, there had been discussions about improving the bylaws. So I feel there's a body of work that you're all familiar with there, and perhaps we continue that conversation and apply some of this section 106 lessons learned to that process as well. That's all I have.
And if you think of something, at 2 a.m. one night, you're welcome to email me as well, and it can go in a folder titled Bylaws Revisions, so that's also an option.
I feel seen.
Yeah, I'm glad.
Okay, yeah, thank you so much. I don't think we have any announcements.
We do have one. It got cut off, sort of. Just putting it out there that if there are other things that, you are like, oh, I have a burning need to talk about X topic at some point this year, or I really think the commission needs to address why, you're also welcome to send those to me by email, and I'll send sort of a post-commission roundup email sometime this week, Thursday or tomorrow or Friday, and you're welcome to either respond to that just to me, or send an individual email as things occur to you if you're like, I really need to have this as a study session later on. That way we can get that in our brains and on our calendars and sort of coordinate.
Also, the Urbana Housing Needs Assessment is begun, and you have a flyer in front of all of you to participate in the resident survey. It's a colorful flyer. It should be out in front of anyone. We're encouraging everyone to participate, including our commissioners. So, not in the packet. That was an additional handout. It became available on Monday of this week. That's the one. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. And yeah, I don't think we're going to talk about it right now, but we could send you an email, as you mentioned, Kate, because there have been just comments that have made by various commissioners in the past there are different areas that we've expressed interest in having like a study session, and it just hasn't happened for various reasons, or we haven't been able to really get
Right.
momentum with it because of cancellations and such. So, I certainly encourage any of you to send Kate an email on things that, we've touched upon in the past that we haven't really gotten momentum on. Good.
So I have a technical question on that front. So for agenda setting in that way, is the best path to write to Kate, or should we be writing to you as the chair? I mean, in terms of setting an agenda for a meeting.
So this is something that I was concerned about in the past, but I'm not actually involved with the agenda until you all are as well. I know other commissions and boards, as part of the city, the chair is involved when you're like starting to set up the agenda, but for whatever reason, it hasn't happened with our commission, and I don't know if that's something that changed at some point or what.
Yeah, within the planning division realm of commissions, staff is supporting as the secretary, and so staff makes the agendas. I am not aware of the chair of a commission being involved early on, which is, I think, kind of, which is where this need arises for more communication of intent or interest from the boards, because then we can plan that out. So as far as I'm aware, the chair would not be involved in the formation of the agenda unless you formally send, any of the commissioners, but the chair included, formally send an email making a request, because the packets are made 7 days in advance. So I think it would, theoretically, we could include something if it was 7 days in advance. Otherwise, we would have to amend the agenda live.
Well, I mean, I
That
think
makes
it would
sense?
need to be in advance, like it would be a week or two in advance. And so I guess the board I'm thinking about that I know that they have a meeting, like, I think it's 7 days in advance, is like the Urbana Free Library definitely
Oh, I see.
sets the
Yes.
agenda together. So I know they're a little different maybe than a commission, but still, and I guess it doesn't exist in our bylaws, but I thought it did somewhere mention that the chair is part of the process with setting the agenda.
Okay.
Because in the past, we've wanted items to be on the agenda, and then we were turned down because we weren't able to be part of that process the 7 days or more in advance. So if that can, I know we have new staff, if we can reconsider that, I think it would be very helpful.
That's good feedback to hear. I think also what we could look at doing is if you all send me like study session ideas, and of course we can continue to modify them, but there's 3 quarters left in the year. So I love thinking about quarters, but we can do like a calendar of sorts, and like how are we thinking about positioning things with the meetings that are left, and how much time do we want to allocate to one topic versus other topics. So we can also discuss that as a group of like, how are we thinking about allocating time to topics?
Yeah, I mean, I know, speaking for myself only here, but that would be incredibly helpful. And that's like, we haven't really had that opportunity. And there's been several times where we had intent for the next meeting, and we talked about it at one of our monthly meetings, but then the next meeting or 2 or 3 are canceled. Not because we weren't a quorum, but for other reasons beyond this commission. And so that has really led to inconsistency on what we've been able to do and function as a commission. So yes, absolutely. And Kate, maybe, I'll reach out to you separately if that helps to kind of figure out like how we can move forward in a way that doesn't burden staff, of course, but doesn't take up too much time in general.
Thank you.
To follow up with one, I mean, just to have clarity so that we definitely should be looking at the bylaws. We should look at them regularly regardless, just to make sure that they feel right. And then our historic preservation plan from 1998, we have to do that work. And we're, in a sense, we're raring to do that work. So, but if the method is I write to Kate and say, I want to add this to the agenda, so be it. I mean, it's a democratic process. In my department at work, I make the agendas, people write to me. our office administrator does not make the agendas. But in a more, like, let's say, in a less hierarchical process, she could make the agenda, right? Because she'd be coordinating voices. I don't have a problem with either one, but just knowing what the best method would be great. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I think that looks like everybody's at the end, so I don't think there's any other announcements. Let's go ahead and adjourn this public meeting at 9:05 PM. No other business will be discussed after the meeting is adjourned. And thank you all for coming.